Board of Trustees of the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District is called to order at 7 p.m. This is both the board workshop and regular monthly board meeting being held on June 15, 2021. Because our board and Dr. Nivens are leaving tomorrow for a school board conference, we have combined our workshop and meeting into one this evening. We have a quorum this evening with the exception of Trustee Welch. Please join me in a moment of silence to observe as you feel appropriate. Okay, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
So as you can see, we have returned to normal operations in the boardroom tonight. We did not change the board desk placement, however, as it seems to be more conducive to our trustee discussions. This is also Dr. Nivens' first meeting as superintendent, so please help me welcome him. Okay, so next, Dr. Nivens, are there any introductions?
Yes, ma'am, Madam President. We do have introductions. Dr. Bowen.
I was making sure my first one was coming up with. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Tonight, I'd like to introduce you to Lamar CISD's newest group of administrators. First, we have Amy Aragus for the associate principal position at Foster High School. Amy is a May 2000 graduate of Texas A&M University with a bachelor's degree in English. She received a master's degree in 2004 in administration and supervision from the University of Houston, Victoria. Ms. Aragus has 21 years of experience in education, including 7 years of teaching experience, 4 years as an instructional coordinator, 3 years as an assistant principal, and 7 years as a dean of instruction. We welcome her back to Lamar CISD. Our next administrator is Sarah Falcon, who's joined tonight by her grandmother, Patricia Brucher, and her son, Michael Falcon. If you guys would stand for us. Sarah is the new assistant principal at Hubenack Elementary. She's a May 2005 graduate of the University of Houston downtown with a bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies. She received her master's in 2011 in library science from the University of North Texas. Ms. Falcon has 16 years of experience in education, including 4 years of teaching and 12 years as a librarian at Hubenack. Not all 12 at Hubenack, but at Hubenack. Congratulations. Our next administrator is Nancy Garcia, who's the new assistant principal at Arredondo Elementary, and tonight she's joined by her parents, Jose and Carmen Garcia, her husband, Al Bowden, son, Dalton Haynes, sister, Nora Garcia, and her niece, Christy Guillory. You guys Nancy is a May 1998 graduate of the University of Houston with a bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies. She received her master's in 2017 in educational leadership from the University of Houston, Victoria. She has 19 years of experience in education, including 15 years of teaching and 2 years as a literacy coach. We welcome her to the district. Our next administrator is Dr. Katrina Guillory, who's joined tonight by her parents, Lawrence and Beatrice Guillory, partner Deshaun Jose, sons Ace, Juwan, Isaiah, and daughters Sarah and Grace. If you guys would stand as well. Katrina is the new associate principal at Randall High School. She is a May 2004 graduate of Rice University with a bachelor's degree in policy studies and sociology. She received her master's in 2014 in educational administration from Lamar University. In 2017, she earned her doctorate in educational leadership from Lamar University. Dr. Guillory has 17 years of experience in education, including 10 years of teaching experience, 2 years as an academic facilitator, and 5 years as an assistant principal, most recently at Reading Junior High. Next, we have the principal at Carter Elementary, Leanne Emery, who's joined tonight by her husband, Joe. Leanne is an August 1989 graduate of Central Michigan University with a bachelor's degree in English. She received her master's in 2000 in administration and supervision from the University of Houston, Victoria. Ms. Emery has 32 years of experience in education, including 19 years of teaching experience, 8 years of experience as a gifted and talented facilitator, and 5 years as an assistant principal, most recently the assistant principal at Carter. So welcome to your new role.
You look so young.
I wish you didn't sit all those years.
Next, I'd like to introduce you to the new campus coordinator, head football coach at Terry High School, Coach Darnell Jackson, who's joined tonight by his wife, Julie, who also teaches for us, and his son, Kyson, and his daughter, Kinsley. Coach is a May 2013 graduate of the University of North Alabama with a bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies. Coach Jackson has 7 years of teaching experience in Lamar CISD and is currently serving as the Terry High School offensive coordinator. Coach Jackson is also a graduate of Terry High School. And our last administrative introduction for the night is our new police lieutenant, Darrell Segura, who's joined tonight by his wife Maria, son Darrell, daughter Leah, and her boyfriend Alonzo. Darrell has 26 years of experience in law enforcement, including 15 years working in the school resource division, and Darrell is also a graduate of Terry High School.
Kind of hard to maneuver around all these desks.
All right. Ms. Vosick, are there any public comments?
There are none, Madam Chairman.
Moving on.
Oh, yeah, let's wait a minute.
Maybe. Depends on what Okay. Now we need to approve the minutes for the May 8th, 2021 regular board meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Ms. Danziger makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lambert, sorry, I blanked there for a second. I was gonna say Mr. Zach, but Mr. Lambert, seconds. Okay, any discussion? All right, hearing none, I call for the vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Are there any board member reports?
Yes, Madam President. Even though the facility committee we did not meet. I do have some updates that we might be wishing to hear about. ALC additions and renovations. The demolition of the existing ALC building is in progress. There are challenges to completing phase 3, the new ALC/1621, due to incorrect installation of the sanitary lines. Modifications will be required at the contractor's expense. Additionally, conditioned air has not been established. These may affect the scheduled substantial completion date of August 10th. Facilities and Planning Department is closely managing these issues. The multipurpose space high school and orchestra middle school additions. Multipurpose additions are on schedule to be complete by August 2nd, 2021. Orchestra additions are on schedule to be complete by August 6th, 2021. Terry High School and George Junior High School additions and renovations. Terry Band Hall, multipurpose room, administration, science rooms, corridor walls, and new competition gym bleachers are scheduled for completion August 2021. George Ranch High School forum stage and seating upgrade, gym locker rooms, and band hall additions are scheduled for completion August 2021. Lamar Consolidated High School and Lamar Junior High School additions and renovations. The Mustang Avenue Parent Drive is under construction. Junior high choir and orchestra finishes are in progress. Sub-varsity field area and visitors locking room construction are in progress, and project is scheduled for completion August 2021. And Dr. Thomas E. Randall High School and Harry Wright Junior High School substantially complete of 6-1, and if anybody follows them on Facebook or social media, they are moving in as we speak. I've been watching the boxes. And Fletcher Morgan Junior Elementary School construction is moving at a rapid pace, on schedule for November 15th, 2021, substantial completion. Maxine Phelan Elementary School construction is underway. Bond 2020 architect contracts are in negotiation. And I'm sure you're going to say a little something, but again, of all the 5 graduations, we really do want to thank everyone, all the staff, the cabinet, the principals, their staff. It took a village to get those graduations done over here at Traylor, and I've had more people come up to me and say how friendly everyone was, how cooperative, and they just felt so happy to come to the graduations and leave, and they didn't feel any stress. And I know it's because you want to make it great for our parents and the graduates. So thank you again, and I know it wasn't easy, but we did it. And again, congratulations to Ben Perez for being named Distinguished Principal of Texas. So we were at that ceremony. So I just wanted to do that shout out. I'm sure you have a couple things too.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Ditto. No, you're totally good. Anyone else? All right. Oh,
I just wanted to
yeah.
very briefly, I don't know if it's the right time to say it, but we have a very heavy meeting on like partnerships, community partnerships with different organizations that help our students, especially the ones that are the most in need. And so I wanted to just thank all of the community partners and services that help our students, especially the most at-risk, vulnerable students, and the folks that are on staff that find these opportunities. And it was just page after page of opportunities that are at significantly reduced cost or free that just help our students that are most in need. So thank you, everybody that helps to find these and to get them for our students.
Thank you. Dr. Nivens, any superintendent reports?
Yes, ma'am, Madam President. I have been meeting with just a few people since I've been here, but I've talked to quite a few folks. And the Lamar CISD is an absolutely outstanding school district. And I just want to give a special thanks to the staff that's out there right now, because I've met most of them. And you talk about just a room full of high performers. And they're gonna make the superintendency a whole lot better for me in doing this. And so I just want to publicly say you guys are top-notch cabinet, top-notch team, directors, principals, and teachers that I've met so far. I'm just really excited to be a part of this team. And then also, on the flip side of that, I'm not sure if everyone just really understands the heart for students and staff in this district that our board has. And, I've talked to board members individually, and every concern, every comment is first about our students, then about our staff, and then making sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure our students are set up for success. And so Lamar CISD is optimal. I really don't have the words to say it. And so I'm so proud and happy to be here and to be able to serve the communities with everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So at this time, we'll establish a consent agenda. The board creates a consent agenda, which are items that the board feels that there's no need for further discussion. We'll start with A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6,
I'd like to pull that one.
A7, A8, A9, A10, A11, A12, A13, B1, B2, B3, which I'm pulling. B3. B4, B5, B6, B7, B8, B9, B10, B11. Hold, yes, thank you. And B12.
Madam Chairman, do you need to pull B4 since it's discussion and action?
B4. We don't have any action, so we're not pulling it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. And that is it, correct? Okay, so the consent agenda will be A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A7, A8, A9, A10, A11, A12, A13, B1, B2, B4, B5, B6, B7, B8, B9, B10, and B12. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Ms. Brunzell makes a motion. Any seconds? Second. Alex? Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Okay, so the first item, can I get a motion to approve? Oh, it's, you know what? I'll do it. I think I do it, yes. A6. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Ms. Brunzell. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Hubenak. All right, Zach, would you like to
No.
start the discussion?
Yeah, so for 6, there really is no major discussion that I would like to have. It's just the fact and support of bringing in outside mentors. And the fact that we have mentors on the agenda makes my heart happy. And just I want to vocally say, like, the fact that we're bringing other people in to speak life into our students and to help guide and mold and walk with them and do life with them is awesome. So that was my discussion.
Thank you, that's good discussion. Okay, so, any more discussion?
How many campuses participate in this program?
4.
Currently 4 campuses.
Do
No,
know?
what specific 4 campuses is what you're asking for, right? Come up here, Dr. Maxwell.
We
Thought you were only off easy.
Prior to COVID, we had Seguin, Long, Pink, and Bowie participate in this program. We were wanting to expand. COVID happened, so that's our goal this year, is looking at which campuses would be good fits and matches.
And does the individual campus just decide what students would be a good fit for the program?
They're the ones who identify students who'd be a great choice for mentorship.
Okay. All right, thank you.
At some point, would it go up to secondary?
The intention is the younger grade levels.
It starts with younger grades levels, yes.
Okay, at some point, will offering some sort of mentorship for secondary, would that be an idea, or is that?
We can definitely look at that, yes.
Okay.
Mentorship is very important to us, and we do believe
Yeah.
we need positive role models at the secondary level. And so, yes, we continue to kind of seek that. As you see in the college career readiness, how many programs that we have coming in to kind of work with our kids as well.
Yeah.
And so that is something that we continue to seek.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to see some more towards those secondaries, just because there is a whole crop of, the harvest is plentiful, the laborers are somewhat few. If we could dive in also, but yeah, I love this right here, but some secondary.
We agree.
Thank you. Any other discussion? So I call for the vote. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Okay, next is B3, page 96. Can I get a motion to approve the item?
Well,
Ms. Brunzell makes a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Hubenot seconds. Okay, let's go to page 96.
are we gonna need to put people in there
Motion
With the names.
designate.
with the names?
Got it, okay. So I already spoke, Mr. Trustee Welch is not here, but I did prior to the meeting speak with, I am losing everybody's name right now, oh my gosh, Trustee Hunt? No, anyways. And they are both not interested this year, just because you're not sure if you can attend the conference, correct? Because they were supposed to go last year, but then COVID. And so I just want to give them first choice on that, because I know that y'all were interested, but schedules may not allow this year. Do I have any other nominations?
I don't mind doing it if nobody else does.
Did you want to nominate somebody? Are you nominating yourself?
I'm not, if nobody else wants to do it, I don't mind doing it. But, I mean, that's,
Which one would you like to do?
have you ever done, have you?
I haven't done it before, so that's why I'd like to do it.
Well, then why don't you do I nominate you to be the delegate.
Okay,
How's that?
great.
Okay. So Ms. Brunzell. Do I have any other nominations for the alternate? Okay, there we go. All right.
It's a very
Seems
important
fair.
job. If she has to use the restroom, I have to go sit in her seat.
It's pretty intense. But as I discussed with Zach, I'm first names tonight, that all of us are encouraged to go. It's just, we do need a delegate and alternate. We didn't quite know that the first year. It was a little confusing. So anyways, okay, so do I have a motion to approve that we designate Mrs. Bronzell as the delegate and Ms. Danziger as the alternate to the 2021 Texas Association of School Boards Fall Convention?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. I don't know, sorry, names tonight. Okay, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
And none opposed, motion carries. Okay. Everybody's out of order. Everything is out of order. That's what it is. I'm so,
There you go.
yes, thank you. I'll go with that, Alex. Okay, next item would be B11. Need a motion to. do I have a motion to discuss and take possible action on,
I'll make the motion for discussion.
for discussion? Okay, do I have a second? Okay, Ms. Brunzell seconds.
So, by request, the Board of Trustees will discuss and take possible action on the Budget Committee. The committee will consist of our current board officers and will serve to increase board engagement in our annual budget process.
Could I ask what this might entail? Would this be sitting in on meetings with, or, I just would like to know what the job description is.
So the Budget Committee will be a subcommittee of the board, and they will actually make recommendations to administration on the exact ADA that we should budget on. And then when we start talking about salary increases and budget allotments, that Budget Committee will be led by our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Ludwig. I said that right, Ms. Ludwig.
Yes.
Be led by her and her team, and then talk to that committee, and then we'll give that committee several different options for us to consider as we move forward in the budget process. And then that budget process will be presented to the board as a whole before approval.
Okay.
So I can go a little bit deeper. So for instance, when we start talking about budgeting for ADA, we will give the board committee 3 options. We can say, here's a conservative approach, here's a moderate approach, and here's an aggressive approach. And this is what those numbers look like. And so then that committee would say, okay, to administration, let's look and see what a moderate approach to budgeting for ADA looks like. And then we take those numbers and create the rest of the budget and then present that back to the committee. And then we present it to the board as a whole in another workshop to make sure everybody's on the same page.
And then they would, if you're getting them 3 options, it would, if we went this way, this would be the outcomes or the issues that, the pros and cons
Yes.
for each one.
Yes.
So you would have an informed decision.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We
So
do
what
the
you're
pros and
trying to
cons
do is
before.
just get more input from the board before the board hears the budget.
Yes, but what direction from the board? Because that's one of the main
Right.
board's main functions,
Right.
is to approve the budget.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And Madam President, if I understand the board action being considered is whether the board will create a standing budget committee.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
And the members of that, as I see it in the recommendation, will be the board officers.
Correct.
Would the committee stand separate, because we have a financial audit committee, right?
It would be separate.
Finance, so it would be separate. Okay.
Ms. Danziger?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm just trying to process it all.
Okay.
I
And-
move that we create a standing budget committee.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second
Okay. Mr. Hubiak,
Doesn't
sec-
have to say made up of the office.
well, it says of the current board officers, so that,
So I'll amend my motion to that we would create a standing budget committee comprised of 3 members of the board selected by the
Yeah.
president, correct?
No, it's just board officers.
That's for this year. But in the, do we want that to be the case going forward, that it's always the board's officers?
That's something we can decide.
So maybe we should discuss that. I like the idea of having the board's officers do it this time, since it's the first time we're doing it, and I'm sure that we're gonna have to change the process as we move forward.
right.
But in the future, there might be other members of the board that have a specific skill set
Yes.
that would make them good on the budget committee, but they're not necessarily an officer.
Or someone doesn't have the time to put into it.
So designated by the president, then? That's what. Okay. Do you want to?
So I will amend my motion to be that I move that we create a standing budget committee comprised of 3 members of the Board of Trustees as appointed by the board president.
Okay, do I have a okay. So all in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries.
we have to go back and vote? Should we step up?
Okay, so I think that is. Okay, so do I need to, okay, so I did. Okay, so this completes the action items. So we're moving on to the information items. So,
Can I ask one question about the information item? Do our, tax firm that we have, do they occasionally come to our meetings and give us any kind of updates? Because I don't recall that. I just thought maybe they should occasionally come and give us an update every now and then.
so Jill, Miss Ludwig is coming to the podium.
That's all right.
I was just thinking, yeah, our law firm that we employ for tax collection, do they ever come and give us any information?
They can on request, but they typically have not done an actual report to the board in open session.
Only if we have some type of question we ask.
Okay, and there's actually two different entities that collect taxes for us. So that Fort Bend County collects the current year levy, and then the firm you're speaking of, which is Linebarger, collects our delinquent taxes, so their prior year.
That's what I was more interested in.
And they have visited the board, but typically it's when we're renewing contracts and things like that. But
I
they can
believe
at
after
their-
one of either the hurricane or something, when we were having to make some changes, I believe that they were here and spoke to us.
Yes, they visit sometimes when we have tax sales or things like that as well, special situations.
Trustees, we're currently working on the board governance calendar, and if you would like to make that a standing presentation every year, we can do that. We just put it on the board governance
Nice
calendar.
if we heard from them once a year,
Okay.
twice a year, just kind of an update on what's happening with taxes.
Okay. So if the board's will, I'll work with the board president about when they can come this year, and then we'll just put on the calendar for that to be a standing presentation every year thereafter. Got it.
Sounds great.
So Ms. Ludwig, if you will come up and do the budget workshop now, please. And board members, while Miss Yvonne is here, Miss Yvonne was one of the second staff members I made sure she said, "Do not forget my name," and I have not. But Ms. Ludwig's here, and she's going to give us a brief description, an overview of what the budget workshops will look like, but we'll go in much more depth with the budget committee.
Thank you. So I am pleased to present our first budget workshop for the 2021-22 school year or fiscal year. At this first meeting, I typically talk about the types of revenue. Maybe. There we go. The types of revenue that are included in our budget, projected totals of revenue and expenditures, and then the building blocks that go into making our budget. The board is required by law to adopt 3 different budgets, although we do have some special revenue funds and construction budgets and things like that that you all do not have to approve. You are required by the state of Texas to approve the general fund budget, the debt service budget, and the child nutrition fund budget. So focusing on the general fund budget, there's 3 categories of revenue reported within the general fund. Local revenue includes property taxes, and that's by far the largest category. There's state revenue, of course, growth in enrollment and attendance, as well as local tax effort increases additional funds in the way of state aid. And then also a little over 1% of our general fund budget is from federal sources of revenue. getting a little bit more detailed about the local revenues, as I said before, property taxes make up the biggest piece of that source of revenue. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about the current year levy and also the M&O tax rate that goes into generating that levy. The current year levy is based on preliminary values, which we get from the Fort Bend Central Appraisal District. And then those values are adjusted a little bit more because at this point in time during the year, after we've received preliminary values, protests are taking place. And so there are adjustments to values between now and when values are certified in July. At this point in time, we're taking off 7.25% of the value, or discounting the value for those protests that we might lose value as a result of. We're using a 98.5% collection rate, which is conservative for us. We actually do collect more than that percentage every year. We have very, very good taxpayers. Delinquent taxes and penalties and interest are other pieces of our property tax revenue. And with House Bill 3, there are some constraints that we live within as far as our maintenance and operations tax rate, which is one component of our total tax rate. There's a maximum compressed rate that we have to stay within under House Bill 3. This year, it's going to be roughly 84 cents. And then to that, we add the 4 cents of enrichment pennies, as well as the 1 cent that was adopted last year by unanimous vote of the board. So the 84 cents plus that 5 cents for enrichment is a little bit over 89 cents, which is what we're projecting as our M&O rate for this year. In addition to taxes and those types of revenues, we also collect investment earnings, donations, facility rentals, revenues from athletics, and then other miscellaneous sources. The projected total of roughly $183.5 million in local revenues makes up a little bit over 50% of our general fund revenue. A little bit more about our property taxes and honing in a little bit on the values. We received our most recent report in April of preliminary values, and it looks like they will be up a little over 6%, 6.31% right now over the 2020 values. If you'll recall, last year in 2020, we had a growth rate of roughly 9.25% over the prior year, and 7.5% in 2019, a little over 3%, a little over 3.5% in 2018, and a little over 5.5% in 2017. So you can see by our history that we have healthy value growth in the district. And as I said before, we've made adjustments to the values for a more realistic estimate, and we work continuously with the CAD and the chief appraiser to determine what value estimates we should use. And also, you might want to recall that the appraisal district also has to stay within the comptroller and the state of Texas guidelines on what values need to be. And if they're outside of those values, then they face some penalties as well as the district as far as assessment of taxes and state aid. Our preliminary net taxable values, adjusted for over 65 and disabled persons freeze values, is at $19.336 billion currently. We're using $17.934 billion, and that's that discount I was talking about for protests and things. So we're at right at $18 billion for our tax levy estimate. Current year taxes are estimated at a little over $178 million for the general fund alone, and we believe that our certification will occur pretty well before the deadline. The deadline for certification is July 25th, but I believe the latest estimate is around the 16th, which is about a month from now. Delinquent tax collections that we've budgeted are at $1.6 million, and penalty and interest collections at $900,000. So of that total general fund revenue, $180.5 million of it relates to property taxes. The next slide just shows you a side-by-side comparison of last year and this year's calculation of the general fund and M&O tax levy. So focusing on the right-hand column, you'll see that roughly $18 billion in value, and then the 89-cent rate applied to it, which gives you right at $160 million. And then adding in the frozen tax levy, which is a little over $21 million, gives you the $180,781,773 in current year levy. And then we apply the 98.5% collection rate, giving you what we're estimating our current levy to be, or current budgeted revenues to be, which is a little over $178 million. Moving on to state aid and state revenues, there are two categories that make up the bulk of the money, which is the Foundation School Program and then a per capita allotment. We also budget for TRS on behalf payments, which is our share of what the state actually pays into employees' accounts, retirement accounts, and we've got to show that as a revenue and an expense. So that same $18 million is on both sides of our budget, so it has no impact on the bottom line. Then we have a few small miscellaneous grants, and the projected total is $176.899 million for 21-22, and again, it's right at 49% of the general fund revenues. The 1% of general fund revenues is made up of federal sources. Our preliminary budget is $3.925 million in federal money, which is 1.08%. The bulk of that, $3.9 million, is for Medicaid related services under the SHARS and MAC programs. The snapshot of the revenue budget shows a total of $364.3 million, and you'll see up at the top the property taxes of roughly $6 million, and then in the middle the state per capita and FSP entitlements of $158.87 million. With respect to the building blocks for the general fund, between January and May, we distribute allocations to the campuses, and then the departments are also working on their budgets. Once the deadline passes for the budget managers to do their data entry, we receive that, reconcile the amounts to make sure that they've budgeted what they were allocated, and then we put together the first pass of the budget. Centrally, Finance works with HR to develop our payroll and our benefits budgets. And then once we put it all together, about this time of the year in May, we have our first pass of the budget. In June and July, we do refinements of the revenues and the expenditure budgets, as well as the salary projections. During the summer, we look at raise estimates, maybe growth positions, and special position requests that have been received. Then in August, we do a final review and refinement of all three of the budgets that you're required to adopt. And then we start discussing the two-part tax rate, have the budget hearing, and then do tax rate adoption and budget adoption.
Yeah, let me interrupt this for a second, Ms. Lovely. And so on that, if we go back to that the August month, that's so at the beginning of August, that's when we'll start our budget committee meetings. And so we'll have, I think, one budget committee meeting. We'll make those decisions, and then we will, in August, again, come back to the workshop in August and present what the committee spoke about at the workshop for the board. And then at the board meeting in August, the board will then approve the budget. And so all these things will be discussed in more detail in the budget committee that will be held the first week in August.
We actually will do the prelim on July 30th at the beginning. Yeah, so we'll have.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so and so the budget committee and myself will actually meet on July 30th to start going over some preliminary numbers as well.
Thank you.
All right, and as everyone knows, we're definitely a human capital related business, and so personnel and benefits represent about 85% of our budget every year. And as I mentioned, we budget for that centrally. We also have a self-funded workers' comp plan and a self-funded health insurance plan. Our allocations for campuses are based on enrollment, and we use the fall snapshot data in order to allocate those monies. We add some special allotments on top of that, for instance, printing at $3.50 per student. And then we have a basic allotment for each of the grade levels. High schools, $110, junior high, $90, middle schools, $80, and elementary schools, $70. And that's really just for supplies and materials. We also have some allocations that are over and above those per pupil allocations for bus trips, for overtime categories, band instrument and other repairs, student travel allocations, and then other state and supplemental funding sources, which you can see listed there. The biggest ones are special ed, state comp ed, and bilingual, and also CTE. The big ticket items this year, of course, topping the list is salaries at almost $260 million. And then benefits and allowances are up to $56 million, with that $18 million in TRS being, 18 million TRS on behalf payments being part of that. Utilities are a little over $9 million. Fuel is $1.68 million. Technology is $8.75 million. And then property casualty insurance is $2.33 million. And then our central appraisal district and tax collection fees are a little over $2 million as well. So our summary of the expenditure budget, we're looking at a total of $371.8 million, with $315.6 being payroll and benefit costs, and then the next biggest category being professional and contracted costs, and that's where you'll see utilities as well as contracts and things like that for services. So, with all that being said, we're right at a $7.5 million deficit right now. We feel totally confident that we'll be able to bridge that gap. The biggest things we're looking at right now, as I mentioned before, are the appropriateness of our budget for attrition, position requests that have been made, various raise scenarios. We also have some ESSER funding that we can offset some of this with. So we feel confident that we can balance this budget fairly easily. And if there's no questions on the general fund, I'll move to the debt service fund.
Could I don't know if this is the right time to ask this, but there's been reported, and I've thought about it too, could be a big influx of kindergartners coming. Is that something that could hurt, we have to plan for with extra teachers? And
Right. And
I didn't know if our district was going to have to worry about that, or is it other districts that have?
I've heard that globally as well, that there are, but I'm not really sure.
We'll have to wait and see, but it could be a lot of people did not put their kids through.
But I'm pretty sure that PASA probably incorporated some of that in our
Okay.
demographic study, and that's how it weaves its way to the budget and to me is
Okay,
is
just
PASA's
an
reports.
FYI. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Love, I did have a question. So on page 3, when you talked about, it's not necessarily, well, the facility rentals, how much did that, of a change was that for us this year?
I don't have actual dollars, but I know we took a pretty big hit on that.
Yeah.
Kind of going from memory, I think in years past, we probably had as much as 700,000 or so, and I'm not sure that it hit 300,000. Michelle, do you have any idea? Yeah, it's probably less than half, if I had to guess.
And we've opened all of that back up, and so we'll get that, we've already started that back. Okay.
No.
Thank you.
All right, debt service. So this table is similar to the other one that you saw for the M&O tax rate. So on the left-hand side, under the 21-22 preliminary budget column, you'll see that taxable value of roughly 18 billion, and you'll see a 37-cent tax rate, which is an increase of 2 cents. The bulk of that relates to bonds that were already approved through the 2017 election. So that's not a direct result necessarily of the new election. This is just, we're just catching up with where we were. So our net taxes there would be 66.358 million, and then adding the frozen tax levy of 8.7 million. Gross property taxes are a little over 75 million for this fund, and then using the 98.5% collection rate, the net INS property taxes are right at 74 million. And on the right-hand side of that page, I'm showing all the different revenue sources. So we've got a little over 82 million in revenue sources, predominantly being property taxes at $74,545,864. That includes an estimate for delinquent taxes and penalties and interest that will be allocated to this fund of $550,000. And then we also have various types of interest, including capitalized interest and investment interest. We're estimating $6,575,000 for our budget there. And then we've also got some state aid that applies to the INS fund of a little over $1 million. Our budget for debt service this year is $82.184 million. Principal and interest being 82 million of that, and then about 95,000 for paying agent fees and various other fees. For the INS fund, we're looking at a 37-cent tax rate, but of course the final recommendation will depend on where values actually land. Focusing on the tax rate, we have a two-part tax rate, the M&O rate and the interest in sinking or debt service rate. If you'll recall, this year our M&O rate is 0.9191 and the interest in sinking rate is 35 cents. So our total tax rate is 1.2691. For the 21-22 year, we're looking at 0.8904 for our M&O rate and an interest and sinking rate of 37 cents, which would give us a total rate of just over $1.26. So even though we're raising one side, the INS rate, we're still dropping the total rate. And we do have some truth in taxation requirements. As always, we've got to have the board approve and adopt our voter approval rate. And also we have some publishing deadlines that we have to meet. We've got to bring you back and have you vote on the date of the meeting where we'll discuss the budget and tax rate, and also the rate that we'll publish in the paper. And as long as we publish a rate that's higher than what you actually ultimately adopt, we wouldn't have to republish rates and things like that. So we have to be a little careful on what we publish in the paper. With that being said, I'll go on to the child nutrition unless there's questions on that. All right. The Child Nutrition Fund is a self-supported budget, and this year we're looking at a budget of $17.54 million. Revenues are generated from breakfast and lunch sales and also federal reimbursements. And the expenditures are typical, salaries, benefits, food costs, supplies, and some capital outlay. Snapshot of that budget, the total is $17,543,599, $7.7 million being payroll and benefits, and $9.5 million being supplies and materials. With that gives you a snapshot of the three funds at this point in time. But of course, we're always getting new information and things are changing.
Okay, are there any other, let's see. Yes.
And I just wanted to say, I had asked for an information item last time about dyslexia summary, and I do appreciate the information, because being COVID and all the people in and out, it looks like that they still were able to service many of our students. But I did have one question, or a couple of questions. And I'm trying to think if it's Senate bill or House bill. Changed. Dyslexia used to always be under 504. It doesn't necessarily have to be.
No, ma'am.
It can be either or. Is
Correct.
that- And that has to do with how the parents want their child labeled. Is that kind of it, or is it type of dyslexia?
Well, I think it's the severity.
That's what I
It
mean.
could possibly be the severity.
Severity.
What you're, when you look at how we are doing, like, you can see how we're flipped from the state.
Right.
The state is serving majority, you know, we're putting our process through our special ed diagnostic, the diagnosticians. Because one of the things we want to ensure is that our kids truly do have dyslexia and there's not another contributing factor.
Right.
And so that's the reason why. And so we will provide the parent with the information with special ed, but some parents do choose to go ahead and have the 504 support, and they will be provided accommodations as well.
Okay. Is it up to each school when those students are worked with, you know, have dyslexia, work with them, you know, the dyslexia teachers? I know we used to either pull them or they came before school to work with them on some of their accommodations.
We're talking about the reading interventionists at the elementary schools.
Yes.
Well, I have actually somebody here that can speak directly to the reading interventionists, is my colleague here, Elizabeth Franklin,
You were
who
hoping
actually
I wasn't gonna
leads
ask that
the
question, didn't you?
reading interventionist. So I want her to provide you a little bit of information about what they do.
Okay,
I
thank
anticipated
you.
this question.
Okay, you knew where I was going.
Okay, so our reading intervention, well, we do have elementary and secondary, but we do stick to the fidelity of the intervention that we have. And so at the elementary level, students are pulled 4 days a week, 25 minutes a day for that frequency and duration for the duration of the intervention. And it is during the instructional day, so they are not being, you know, required to come before or after school. We do pull them during that instructional day.
Is it during their reading time, or?
We
Or
don't.
that works with the teacher of when's the best time to pull them?
Scheduling can be
Tricky.
very tricky, yes. And so we recommend that it not be during the reading block because that's where their deficit area is. So we don't want them pulled from that area, and so that is our recommendation. However, as we know, schedules can get tricky and tight, and so I could say it probably does happen some of the time, but that is not our recommendation.
Well, I was very pleased to see, I know the testing is much more intricate than it used to be.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
being able to
Yes,
catch
ma'am.
more
Absolutely.
of the
And look at the
kids.
complete whole child. And so, you know,
Correct.
with dyslexia, we look at that unexpected piece. And so when we have that full individual evaluation, we look at all those areas to really see if dyslexia is that root of that reading disability.
It's not like there's more dyslexia, it's just that we're catching it better.
Correct. Making more informed decisions.
Well, and the
Yes.
children are getting better quality education through it.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, and so now an update on Canvas.
Good afternoon, good evening, I'm sorry.
Well, it's still pretty light out. That's
One of the things that we realized is that we needed to kind of assess the status of our Canvas learning management system. And so one of the recommendations that we are putting forward is that we provide a survey to our parents and develop that within July of 2021, receive the information, And then the goal of looking at that survey will begin to create a plan of action so that we can have certain expectations that are across the district, and that we will hold and support our teachers to rise to those expectations as well and support them to get there.
I think that'll be great. The consistency is going to really help everyone.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We've got a team ready to do it, to analyze the data.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on any other information items? Okay, well, it is now 8 o'clock. We are adjourning to closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.082, the Open Meetings Act, to discuss personnel, land acquisition, or consultation with our attorney. And we are in the back this time, all right. Okay. Now back in, oh wait, are we on TV? I mean,
Feels good in here. It was hot in here.
thank you. So we're now back in open session. It is 8:33 p.m. We have a quorum. Are there any other motions to be made? Are there any future agenda items that need to be added? Are there any upcoming meetings and events? We are, again, as I said in the beginning of the meeting, we all leave. Our team of 8 leaves tomorrow for San Antonio for the SLI conference.
And isn't there a Masonic Lodge going to do some, what date is that? 29th. The 29th of June. Randall High School at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
They're gonna,
Karen, will you be sending something out on that?
yeah, you need to keep reminding us.
It's on the boardogram.
I know, but.
Just giving her credit, yes.
No, it was,
And Dr.
but-
Nevin. Okay, well, the meeting is adjourned. It is 8:34 p.m.